a few years ago, I dressed up as Bill for Halloween. And I put on a curly wig, and I shaved so that I just had a mustache, and I wore a sweater vest. And that is Bill with the glasses. That is Bill Black.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Theater Thursdays. I'm Lauren Roark. I'm an assistant professor of costume design and the head of graduate design at the University of Tennessee. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from Knoxville, Tennessee, which is the native land of the Yuchi and Muskogee Creek people, as well as the Cherokee nations. Today we are bringing you a special episode dedicated to the artistry of one of the CBT's most influential figures, costume designer Bill Black, who has recently retired after 44 years at the university. We're here today with the full-time costume artisans of the Clarence Brown Theater, Melissa, Kyle, Amber, and Liz. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi.
Hey. Thanks for joining me today. On this edition of Theater Thursday, we will be discussing Bill Black, the artist and designer. Bill has been designing, teaching, and directing the production of costumes for the Clarence Brown Theater and the Department of Theater for 44 years and has participated in the production of more than 200 plays, operas, and musicals. As an active professional designer, his work has been seen across the country at theaters such as the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, the Denver Center Theater Company, the Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, the Milwaukee Repertory Theater, and this summer will be his 30th season at the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival. So today we're here with the folks that perhaps have worked the most with Bill. This group has worked with Bill for over the past 13 years, and they are going to offer us some insight into his process and his work as a designer. So we've all seen Bill's work on stage, but I think most people don't know about the huge amount of work that goes into the process before those costumes get on stage. So Liz, as a former student and a former assistant of Bill's, can you speak to his design process, maybe his approach to design, the research, and the rendering process?
Yeah, I've worked with Bill for a long time because I'm a former graduate student and I've done some assisting work for him, and we've worked very closely over the years. I've learned a lot from Bill. We all have. Bill's a natural teacher, I think. I think what's paramount to him is that he's a storyteller. First as a costume designer, and he's also a problem solver. When Bill comes into a project, the text is paramountly important. He loves reading it and diving into it and really getting into it and understanding the text as best he can as he approaches the project. He loves Shakespeare and he loves Dickens, which I've worked with him many years on A Christmas Carol. I think everybody has seen one of the versions of Bill Black's Christmas Carol over the years. For Bill to start as he approaches a project, I think the thing he loves more than anything in this world is a blank sheet of paper and a number 2 pencil, just a classic number 2 that he sharpens himself. And he loves that blank page and just coming at it fresh and new, and it coming just kind of spilling out of him. Art's always been a big deal for Bill. He, I think, once almost became an art teacher at some point before he became a costume designer. With his love of theater, his love of art, costume design, I think, came very natural to him. He likes to sit down at the page with the script in mind, the characters in mind, and who they are and what the story is he's trying to tell. And, it just comes out of him from that wonderful pencil that he loves. I've often heard him talk about how he likes his work to be a little bit invisible, and that he feels like he's done an effective job at storytelling if you walk away from something that he's designed and you don't notice the clothes because they were so integral to the story he was trying to tell. So I know that he kind of approaches it on the paper that way a little bit, that it's the most important thing is getting that story across. Besides that, he loves fashion. He understands historical fashion. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge at this point of historical fashion. I'm sure he, like all of us, he dives into his books to know the period inside and out. And, he certainly does with Shakespeare and with Dickens and all those kind of things. The only other thing I can really say is this thing that he's said over the years. It's always kind of echoed, which is that he loves being a costume designer because he gets to play all of the characters. They all have to go across his desk at some point, and he really gets to embody each and every one of the characters of the play. And I think that's one of the reasons he loves it so much.
Yeah, I agree. And something to look out for the next time you watch one of his plays is that he always designs himself into the
He's
play.
Always there.
So on the next show you see of Bill's, keep a lookout and see if you could find him.
It's true.
So Bill is truly a multifaceted artist, both a designer and a maker. Kyle, as the person who would collaborate with Bill next in the process, can you speak about how you begin that build process and how you take the sketch from sketch to a costume?
Sure. Thanks so much, Lauren. Working with Bill is such an amazing experience because, like Liz said, he's a natural teacher. He's a really effective communicator. And that's the thing that I need most from a designer when I'm getting ready to build a costume that they've designed. And I'm also really lucky because Bill and I share a love of Shakespeare. And I've actually been working with Bill for a long time at Utah Shakespeare Festival, one of his other artistic homes. And my favorite show of the past several years that I've been lucky enough to pattern for Bill Black was Titus Andronicus, and his approach to creating these costumes that were both historical and modern and interesting was just really beautiful. And he approaches working with technical artists with respect always, because he has been there. That's what he started doing at the Clarence Brown Theater when he came here 44 years ago. He was the cutter draper and the shop manager. The other great thing about Titus Andronicus was if there's going to be a show where there's going to be a lot of blood, you want Bill Black to design it because he knows about fabrics. He knows about what to use to make sure all of that blood comes out at the end of the night. So he's really wonderful for that. And Titus Andronicus had plenty of blood in it. But I'm just so overjoyed that I've had such a long and wonderful time working with Bill. And I look forward to working with him again somewhere in the future because I know I always will.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Kyle. I wasn't here for Titus, but I have seen the photos and the costumes and the production were just beautiful. Melissa, I would love to move on to you. Next, you make the most beautiful bows, and Bill has never left a single finishing detail out of a costume. So I would love to know what happens once the costumes are built, what the conversation is about every bow, button, and bonnet, really those finishing details and those finishing steps.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about this because I love Bill's sense of detail. I've got a little story about how much attention Bill is paying to all these small details, not here at the Clarence Brown Theater, but at other theaters that shall remain nameless. He's been known to sneak into the prop shop and rearrange all the flowers to his liking. So he is always thinking about every detail. And when you look at his sketches, you see this just beautiful amount of detail and this layer of I think of it as the frosting on the cake. These guys make beautiful cake layers for us, gorgeous dresses and things. And then Bill and I often get together and we share a love of just how do we make this pretty and extra, and taking his sketches and putting them to life is a real treat. Candide was a show that we've done in the last couple of years that was just miles and miles of detail. It had everything. It had embroidery, tons of bows, tons of hats, beautiful masks. We had great help. We got to bring in a craft person for that one to help out because the two of us weren't enough, and we brought in William Young. It was such a treat. So that's definitely a place when you look at how much is going on with the Baron and the Baroness in that show. It's just so much fun. And it's been a great relationship because he doesn't trust everybody with these details. He often takes these things home in the night and, will take away your plain dress and come back with it caked in layers. But he doesn't do that with us. He trusts us to help him. We all have an eye for what Bill likes, and it's just been a super fun, rewarding relationship all this time. Another fun thing about his designs is he solves these problems as he designs. He knows what every material is going to be, and sometimes they're unconventional. If he's not sure how he's going to do it, he'll hit the hardware store and find the thing that achieves the look that he wants. We made things for him out of aquarium tubing, out of zip ties, out of paper towels. It's super fun, and it's been a joy.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Melissa. I was here for Candide and it was stunning. And I also spent the summer before Candide working with Bill in Utah, and he was working on endless paper flowers for that production. So every morning we would get to work and he would tell me how many paper flowers he had crafted the night before.
Oh.
So finally, we have heard how thoughtful Bill is as a designer, how he thinks of every single detail in the costume, but he also thinks of every moment of the play and how that costume will function on stage. So Amber, can you speak to this very important last part about how the costumes get from the shop onto actors and then function on stage?
Yeah, thank you. We've heard throughout about how Bill is a problem solver and a storyteller, and he continues that process into the costumes as they go on the stage because they have to actually work. So I think he designs rather in a backwards fashion. He will figure out what are the problems, what has to happen, and the mechanics of the play, and then he'll design clothes that can actually do that. And as a wardrobe supervisor, I appreciate this so very much because I know that I'm not going to be asked to do the absolute impossible, that his changes will work. I think 39 Steps is maybe the best example that in recent memory, because in that show, the way it's structured, there are two clown characters who end up playing multiple characters, 20 characters or so, and they're playing men and women. And so Bill will figure out how can we use our backstage tricks of quick change artistry to get these people on stage in time. And some of those quick changes were like 45 seconds, 20 seconds. Sometimes it's as easy as adding a hat or taking off a hat. And other times the actor will wear a whole costume underneath and have another costume on top. And that's called underdressing. And it's been a big influence to me as a designer as well. And it's always very satisfying to work on a Bill Black show with wardrobe.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Amber. I think something that's really important to remember is that Bill really creates that theater magic on stage, but it has to do with his endless amounts of planning and thoughtful design that makes that happen. So thanks for sharing that example with us. So finally, before we leave, I would love to ask if anyone has any favorite Bill-isms that they would care to share with us.
I certainly do. It's not really an ism or a saying or anything like that. It is the Bill Black look. It is, you know what Bill Black looks like if you have met Bill Black. And a few years ago, I happened to show up to work on Halloween wearing a sweater vest after just shaving and leaving my mustache. And all I had to do was add a curly wig because I am bald, add a curly wig and my glasses, and I was Bill Black. I want to be Bill Black for a day.
I wish we wore our sweater vest today. I'm going to go with one of my favorite things with Bill is when it's the end of the night on a really challenging show. I love Salty Bill. He'll always say, "What color do you want it and where's my check?"
Bill always does so much for us on every production, and every production has like an extra costume that gets added at the last minute, or we just had one too many to begin with. And he just says, "You know what? I'll do it." He's our fairy godmother. He just takes all the materials, he goes home, and then returns next day magically with this dress all done. And we are going to miss that so much. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Well, we're going to miss that so much. We're going to miss that so much. Yeah. I mean, for me, the big Bill quote, the one that I always think of that lives in my heart and mind is designing is choosing. And that's everything you need to know about designing. Designing is choosing. And that's what Bill does. We love him.
Well, Melissa, Kyle, Amber, and Liz, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was
Yeah,
great.
thank
Lauren.
you. Fun.
And thank you to all the viewers. Please come back next week as we continue our retrospective look at the career of our friend and colleague, Bill Black. We'll see you then.